What is up? I am doing a figure review on the Bandai Figurized Standard Digimon Wargreymon Amplified Model Kit. As you can see, I already completed the Wargreymon model. It took me about maybe 2 hours or so. Here's the packaging. Nice product shot of Wargreymon on the front. Some different poses you can do. As you can see, his Brave Shield also comes off and can be adjusted so to create more wings. Now, they do take some liberties with these figures. Obviously, this doesn't look exactly like Wargreymon did in, say, the anime or the games. It is a amplified version of it, so it has some alternate features to it as the original. Basically, the intention was to make a cool-looking figure that stays true to the original concept, but does incorporate some new mechanics into it. The figure itself turned out really well. I love the different shading and aspects with the layers of plastic. None of this is painted. These are all colored plastic. There are some stickers, such as the eyes and some of these detail shots on the armor pieces and the Brave Shield. The articulation on this is really good. He's got multiple ways you can move him. He does have butterfly joints. These guys did kind of break on me a bit. I did insert a metal pin to make them a bit more stable, so they can be moved back and forth without damaging them. Now, these claws are actually removable. You can actually take... It's kind of hard doing it with one hand, but you can take them off. They just port right into his hand grips, so we'll plug there. And he's got about 3 of these on each side. I did port this in. This is where the Brave Shield ports into when he's actually using it as a shield. I didn't want to lose the piece, so I just ported it in there. Now, this can also be attached to make sort of a claw using his Dragon Slayer gauntlets. I don't remember the exact name of them, but... And these claws are also posable, so it can create sort of like a vice grip claw motion to them. The hands themselves actually have like a bit of a knuckle on them. You can be posed with or without these. The shield itself, it is movable, and they do come right out. They've got 2 different ports on them. Now, the little shield adjustment does want the pegs that are hooked into this to come out. Basically, when you pull them out, you can kind of pull out just the shield, so you gotta actually pull out the pegs as well to get them to port out. Now, each side of the shield actually folds out into like a wing or sort of like an additional shield, and they can be moved as such, which is a really neat feature. Although putting it back, you gotta it has a flexible joint here, so it does change the way it lines up depending on how you have these posed when they're out. So you gotta kind of click them back in properly, or else they don't look right. This one. These do come out easily, but sometimes you do need some additional effort to it. It's easier when you have 2 hands to actually hold down the figure. Give me 1 second, I'm just going to put this down. Alright, sorry about that. So, just port that back in there. And then as for the shield, now I'm just going to pull this out. There we go. So, as I said, these port right into here. We've got these 2 little ball joints with the pegs, so one hooks in on one side, and the hooks on the other. I ever get into these, I'm definitely going to get a camera display so it's not looking all wonky while I'm doing one-handed motions on these. Alright, so there we have his Brave Shield. Now, this can also be disassembled as we did with the wings, so it can be poured out. Kind of like, kind of reminds me of Reinhardt's shield from Overwatch. That's got a large display for that. Kind of flaps out. That does look a lot better when it's the wings, but it does create kind of a cool looking shield effect. Well, obviously, Wargreymon shield does come off in the anime and in the games, but this one's a bit more of a different approach to how shield actually works. Just gonna port that right in. And then it is a pretty solid port. He does hold that up fairly well. Obviously, he can wield it with both claws. And close in the shield. Now, you gotta be careful with these because they are very thin plastic, so you kind of want to slide them in without damaging the figure. I mean, they do move pretty well, and worst case, these just pop out. You can pop them back in, but it does have a modified version of the Crest of Courage. Any fan of the Season 1 Digimon anime can go over that with you. As for articulation, his head does move up and down. Got some side-to-side motion. His hair does move slightly from the head, but not very much. When you have the Brave Shield ported in the back, the head can look down a bit. If you tilt the shield a bit more inward, you can get him looking up a bit more with the shield poured in. His shoulder pads do move up and down, or pauldrons, whatever the technical term is. He does have multiple layers of joints in his chest. This one obviously just gives a little bit of some chest action. This one a lot more so. It does create some gappage if you have it a bit more up. These do move in and out slightly. You gotta be a little careful because it's a very light port in the back here. You do get a small port back here for stands and different types of pedestals you can put them on. None come with the figure, unfortunately. He does get some nice knee joints here. It's double jointed knees. They do bend down pretty far, about a 90-degree angle, which is really nice for a figure this big. He does have some very large feet, which do hold him up very nicely. The joints on these I actually find really nice. It has pivot and forward-back motion. He does have some smaller ports in here. I haven't found exactly what could be used for these. I assume it's either just for the design or maybe you could port some effect pieces in. I know Figure Eyes has some different effect arts you can purchase separately that port in. Usually they're used for any of their figures. I have quite a few with my Dragon Ball figures. Actually on my display stand I have a Beelzemon with one of the Figure Eyes' effect ports in, and those have similar sized pegs, which I'm sure could fit in here. They do have like lightning effects and fire effects, so I'm sure that's for that reason. The Brave Shield itself is really nice. All these white details are stickers, but they do fit in really nicely to the design. I'm more used to the Brave Shield being the similar color to his skin from the original anime, but I do really like this alternate version of Wargreymon. These claws are really nice. He's got flexible claw motion on here. And then back to that. He does have, these do come out fairly easily, but, see, I pulled it too hard. I ripped it right out of the joint. That's the metal peg I used to fix the butterfly joints. I can usually fix this with just some heating up the plastic, inserting the peg and super glue. These are probably the weakest part of the figure, is these butterfly joints. So usually you want to, if you know how to do it, it's smart to reinforce them. I used some steel putty, but I bet I'll probably fix that up a bit more later. But back to that, he does have double joint arms. Now, Now, there is, when you bend it down a bit far, a little gappage that comes out between these two parts of it. It's not a big deal. It's not like it'll damage the figure, but it's held in by these two being gripped together, so you just want to be careful you don't pull it apart. As for that, his elbow joint actually has a ball joint in here for forward back motion, and it does rotate a little bit. And then he has a separate joint that is linked to his pauldrons for up and down motion with his arms. So you gotta kind of position the pauldron in order to move it. Otherwise, back to the figure. There's a bit of a better look at the butterfly joints. It does create some gappage here. This one hadn't broke yet. I did insert some pins to sturdy it out a little bit, as well as some putty that has already hardened to keep it more stable. That is probably the weakest joint of the figure. Unfortunately, with these Bandai Figurized model kits, there's not really any support in the US or other countries for additional parts to fix broken ones. Unfortunately, only customers in Japan can get that. I've gone through several layers of customer support system trying to order or alternate parts. At this point, it's just easier to fix them myself. I'll touch that guy back up later. But yeah, all in all, it's a really nice figure. With these model kits, they do come out really well detailed. The only issue is because they're all thin layers of plastic that you clip together, they do have a tendency to be very frail, so you got to be really careful when posing them. I don't really recommend them to children who'd like to play with them. If that's the case and they like, say, Wargreymon, you'd be better off with like a Digivolving Spirits Wargreymon, or the original Digivolving Wargreymon, or an SH Figure Art. But all in all, it's a really nice figure. It displays really well. Obviously, if you work on the butterfly joints, they'll display a little better with controllability over the pose as opposed to breaking it, which I did. But yeah, well, this is my first toy review, so alright. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.